So when you are going to college or maybe even taking a class as joint enrollment, or even if you went to a high school, it's mostly college though that I'm thinking about. It's a good thing to be able to find out what your professor thinks is good writing. And one way that you can actually do that is to, now I used to say go to the library and check out something that your professor has written. You don't even really have to do that anymore. When you go to college, you're given access to this huge database called JSTOR or something like that. And anything that your professor has published will be on that database. So in some way, you need to check out a piece of a piece of a publication that your professor has actually written, because all professors are required to publish a certain amount. So usually there'll be something that you can access. And what you do is actually do a survey, which is what we're going to do in a few minutes, and find out what actually is the way your professor writes. And you all are well qualified to do that now because you have a lot of writing skills and you know when you're reading something, what the writer's actually doing. You can actually tell what the writer's doing. And you find out what your professor likes and what they don't do. And then you try to write that way for your professor. Because however your professor writes, that's what your professor thinks is good writing. Okay? So I have one student who found out her first semester of English class that her professor did not like the LY opener. Every time she wrote one, he would mark it out. And she quickly came to realize that that was not something that he appreciated. Okay? She's the only one I've ever heard like that. Another student of mine who is probably my most, as far as I know, maybe my most accomplished student in college, she went in with she was one of the people that when I said in level 3 that you only have to do all of the style in 5 of your paragraphs, because in level 3 we write some really long papers. She just kept doing everything in every paragraph, because she was going on the 10,000 hour theory of the sooner you get in these hours of practice, the sooner, your style is going to become better and more natural. So she just kept practicing it, whether I required it or not. And so she actually was, apparently, her mother told me this. I didn't get a chance to talk to Morgan McKay about it, but I'm going to one of these days. Her mother told me that she was having a hard time. Like, her professors would want to publish her work. They said, you can publish this. We've never had a student that can write like this at the age you are, at the stage you are. She's done very well, but she had one professor that she just was having a hard time with. So she did do what I'm about to show you. She got something the professor had written. She did a survey of the professor's style and structure. And then she intentionally started doing the things that professor did in her writing. And guess what happened?
She got good grades.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It solved the problem. Now, frankly, most professors are going to be thrilled to pieces with everything you guys write. Okay? Because the situation is so dire in college writing that you're going to stand out at the top of the class. Okay? But if you find that you are having a problem with a particular professor, that's something you can do. Also, a number of my students over the years have actually gone to work in the writing lab as a job because they have very well-developed writing skills, and it's something they know how to do, and they can actually make some money doing it. And so when you look at somebody else's writing, you will know what it is that needs to be done to fix it, okay? And that's because you've worked so hard on developing your own skills. So there's a lot of, I want you to see how much you know when you're doing this. You know quite a lot, and you are able to help assess other people's writing and also use the information you can get to help improve your own writing. And it could be that your professor's right. You might look at his writing and say, well, you know, he does such and such a lot. And then you might decide later that your own writing is better for it, you know? So it's not just you can always learn more about writing, okay? Y'all have a lot of skills, but there's always more that can be learned. And you can actually learn it by doing these, you know, by assessing somebody else's writing. So this is really kind of fun. And I was glad to be able to put this assignment back in the rotation last year because the SAT essay got dropped and I didn't have to spend a class period teaching that. So as soon as I found out I didn't have to do that anymore, put this back in. It had been one of mine in the past and I had to take it out because we had too many other things we had to do. But this is one of my favorites. So I hope you'll enjoy it too. And I hope you'll have a lot of fun doing it. You deserve to have a lot of fun after all these hard papers that you've been writing. And I do think you'll like it. So look at page 87 with me. Okay. So this is, let's see, there's probably some other things that I missed telling you about. Okay, so as it says right here, you have accrued a tremendous stockpile of structure and style skills and experience. You have the ability to discern the structure and the style techniques an excellent writers used to create an engaging composition. Oh, if you ever read something and you think to yourself, wow, I really like the way this person writes. I'd like to sound like this. You have the skills to figure out what it is that they're actually doing that makes you like it. And then you can consciously imitate their style. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so you can recognize excellent writing. You can also recognize boring, sloppy, or non-existent structure and style when you read it. And so other ways it'll come in handy is, of course, your writing will help you earn good grades in school and in your future career. Now, all my kids did my classes. They did them over and over because I figured out that I wasn't going to do any writing with them on the side if they weren't in my class. So they just had to keep taking my classes until they finished school. And so my daughter was actually asked to teach a class at her first job. She went to school for graphic design, but found out when she applied for the job that her first thing to do was to do the graphic for this little article on a restaurant, but she also had to write a description of the place. It was like some restaurant or something. And she was just like, she had told me, I'm not going to be a writer, so it doesn't matter. Oh, first job. It mattered. So, and then they asked her actually to teach a little class on style to the other people working there. So that it will help you in your future career. You'll be able to help other students who haven't learned these skills. You can use your knowledge to figure out the kind of writing each of your professors prefer. We already talked about that. You can also, if you want to publish something, you can survey the publications that you think you would like to be published in, such as newspapers, magazines, and websites, and find out the kind of writing that publication prefers. All publications, magazines, newspapers, websites, they all have their own flavor. Okay. So Aiden, do you read sites about bike riding?
Yeah, a little bit.
Do people write articles for those?
Yeah, I have a monthly subscription to a magazine about new bikes and stuff that I go through and learn more about components.
Well, this is something you could actually do if you decide, if you had an article that you wanted to write and maybe get on one of these publications, websites, magazines, whatever, you can actually do this survey and figure out what is it that they want, right? And then you can actually intentionally do it that way. So you can also edit other people's writing. Now, do y'all ever have an opportunity to do that? You have friends or siblings or anybody that asks you to read something and help them with it? You ever have that happen to you yet? No? You will. And so this is one of the main truths of life, which is that it is way easier to find other people's mistakes than it is to find your own mistakes, right? Terrible. Thomas Sowell, who I actually just love to read, was an economist, but he's also kind of a philosopher also. And I've read a lot of articles and some books by him. But he wrote an article called Some Thoughts About Writing, which is very, very, very long. And but this is what he says in this article. The one area in which editors have an important advantage over authors is in reading what is said without prior knowledge of what it means. An author reviewing what he has written may automatically interpret ambiguous passages in the way he intended, while an editor can see that there are alternative meanings that accord with the words just as well as what the author had in mind. An author may also subconsciously interpolate missing words, that means put in words, read words that he actually left out, while an editor can more easily see that some words are missing. Typographical errors are likewise easier to spot by someone who is unaware of what was meant and therefore must go by what was said. This is an important function because typos have an uncanny ability to survive readings and rereadings. If there's anything that can survive a nuclear attack, it is probably typographical errors. Okay, so remember, when you're editing another's work, it's best not to pick it totally to pieces. If you ever go and read that article by Thomas Sowell, you will read the scathing remarks he has to make about editors before he said these calm, nice things that I just read to you. He has no patience for it. And it's quite entertaining. So it's best to leave everything like it is, that you can leave like it is. Okay, people are very attached to their own words. And if you're real rough with them, unless it's just totally unacceptable and there's just nothing that is any good that you can leave as much as you can. Okay, that's just a survival skill. How to win friends and influence people. Okay, but yeah, people are very attached to their own words because you all know this by now. Giving birth to words is very painful and bonds the writer tightly to them. It's like your child, right? So leave as much intact as possible, correct obvious mistakes, find things to compliment. Don't forget to use smiley faces, okay? Be kind. If you want to vent your frustration, don't do it in front of the writer. Again, Dr. Sowell on editors. Oh, I did put some of these things in here on the next page, 88. To say that my relationship with editors has not always been a happy one would be to completely understate the situation. To me, the fact that I have never killed an editor is proof that the death penalty deters. However, since nowadays we are all supposed to confess to shameful episodes in our past, I must admit that I was once an editor, only once. And then he says, the best editor I ever had was Midge Decter, who has written books of her own. She had very little to say, and what she said made sense, both of which should qualify her for the Editor's Hall of Fame. Indeed, I went back to her for advice years later, long after she had left editing, and reorganized the vision of The Anointed on her advice. But she never tried to micromanage my style. For editing, writing for others, and for surveying a professor's or publications writing, it's helpful to have a checklist to notate structure and style elements that are used or missing. Use the form on the next 2 pages as a guide as you review an essay or article. He's really funny. In that paper, in that article also, he talks about how he lived pretty close to the publishing area of New York as a young man. And he said, I would post my manuscript to the publisher, and sometimes the rejection would come so fast it would beat me home. But he wasn't deterred, and he just kept at it, and then he finally became a world famous writer. So, all right. So what we're going to do is use this actual structure and style survey, and I do have this posted on the website on ThinkWave. And let me just, did y'all print yours that I asked you to print?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so just like save this. If you have a writing folder where you save things, like I would save the how to read a book thing that you can always use in the future if you need it for research. I would save this. There's a lot of things you could save, but this is really helpful. And we're going to use it here in just a minute. So what we're going to actually do right now is read the article that we're going to be surveying. And then we're going to go through and we're going to make notes on that form that you printed about the structure and the style. Okay. So turn to page, I don't know, have y'all read the Green Menace article yet? It's entertaining. It's on page 233. You don't have to make notes right now. We're going to do that in just a minute. But if you want to mark something that you find particularly egregious, you're welcome to do that. Okay. All right. So on page 233, I found this in an 8th grade reader that I like readers. I used to enjoy getting readers when I was in school. You know, it's like the English book for the year that has all the stories and articles in it that you're going to be using for class. So I picked up one for free at a homeschool used book fair and found this article in it, which was, it's a very interesting article, but it needs a lot of help. Okay. Green Menace. It climbs, it clings, it has hairy green arms. It's the kudzu, a plant that is the fastest growing vine of all. That's the problem. It grows too fast and wild. Kudzu's long leafy arms shoot out a foot a day and keep stretching until they reach 40 to 60 feet. This length would be taller than many of the giant trees in the United States. Each kudzu arm has elbow-like joints called nodes. The nodes grow more hairy arms covered with green leaves as big as a human hand. Kudzu arms are strong. They can pull down telephone poles. Hundreds of kudzu arms cling together and weave a blanket of green that covers everything it touches. It can wrap around trees, cars, houses, even people if they would stand still for it. The vine thrives in the South, and at first Southerners welcomed it as a friend. Even though kudzu has some good points, now almost everyone in the South knows that kudzu is an aggressive, invasive weed. Few like it. They call it names: King Kong kudzu and the kudzu monster. One group made a movie called Curse of the Kudzu Creature. Kudzu is an example of a decision that looked right, but went wrong. For a brief time, it appeared as if kudzu were a miracle plant that could bind the wounds of the weary soil and save the South. Years ago, in 1876, the plant was brought to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania from Japan. The Japanese used the plant as a decoration at the 100th birthday party for the United States. The frisky vine looked pretty. Its purple and violet flowers smelled sweet. It excited Americans. They decided the big leaves of kudzu would make good shade. They took the vine to its new home in the southern states. There, the climate is much the same as in Japan. Kudzu seemed happy. It grew like bubbling laughter. It was a riot when it came to climbing. Up the porches of houses it went. People thought it was cute. Its big leaves shaded the porch in the hot summer. But cute kudzu did not stop with porches. It climbed everything it could wrap its hairy plant arms around. Not only did the weed climb, it ran. Over the ground it raced. At first, Southerners were happy to see the vine hug the earth. The farmland needed a friend. The soil was sore of bad use. Years of planting corn, cotton, corn, and tobacco had worn out the land. The good topsoil had blown away, and only an ugly scar of red clay was left. In 1933, the U.S. government began rewarding farmers who planted a kudzu crop. Thousands of men were hired to plant the vine from Maryland to Texas. That was probably a WPA project, Work Projects Administration during the Depression. In the late 1940s, kudzu was treated like a king. Kudzu clubs sprouted. A rock band called itself kudzu. In Alabama, a kudzu queen was elected. Kudzu showed that even a weed has a good side. It helped perk up the sad soil. Kudzu roots grow 7 feet long, longer than a tall man. The roots go down deep into the earth and break up the hard soil. This makes room for air to mix with the dirt. Mixing air and soil is called aerating. Aerating helps the soil gather food for plants. Kudzu roots do a good job of aerating the soil. Kudzu aids the soil in another way. Its roots store nitrogen. Nitrogen is the most important plant food in soil. Nitrogen helps make plants healthy, gives them a dark green color, and helps keep the leaves juicy. Kudzu comes from a plant family rich in nitrogen. The family plant name is legumes. Kudzu is kin to the common pea plant, a legume that grows in backyard gardens. Because kudzu stores nitrogen in its root nodes, it doesn't have to take as much food from the soil. This leaves more nitrogen in the ground for other plants to use. Kudzu is called a nitrogen saver. There is one more way the vine helps the earth. It gives the soil a strong arm to cling to. Kudzu's thick green net of many arms holds the soil and keeps it from being blown away by the wind. Also, the plant is good animal food. Kudzu is tasty. Boiled, it tastes like cabbage. Chickens, cows, goats, and pigs like to eat it raw. When the sun begins to dry up other crops, kudzu stays fresh. It uses its long roots to draw deep drinks of water from the earth. This made farmers happy. Here, they said, was a plant they could count on for animal food. But kudzu had a wild side. It did not want to be king. It wanted to be what it was, a free wandering weed. It crawled into neighboring fields and killed good crops. Kudzu climbed over other plants and damaged them by cutting off sunshine. Kudzu killed good fruit and nut trees and forest timber in the south. Farmers grew sad when they learned kudzu was a hard crop to harvest. It grew so thick, it was like a giant web of string tied in knots. Yes, it made good animal food, but it was not easy to gather like hay. Farmers began to dislike kudzu and quit planting it, but it was too late. By the 1950s, kudzu was out of control. It had become an outlaw weed, stealing through the South, taking land and not letting go. Today, more than 100 years after kudzu first tasted U.S. soil, the runaway plant covers about 1 million acres in the South. This is an area larger than the state of Rhode Island, and kudzu keeps creeping. Southerners have to use chemical sprays to keep greedy kudzu from draping itself over everything. Someday, scientists may find a new way to make kudzu a friend again. Until then, this pesky weed will continue to appear to wear its three-pointed leaves like a cocky hat, as if to say, I'm the green bully of the South. I dare you to stop me. Most Southerners try to pay no mind to the show-off plant, but few can escape the hairy green pest. Almost everywhere they go, bully kudzu is hanging around to remind them that, I forgot to fix this again. Sometimes even the best ideas turn out to be wrong. Add that at the end. Sometimes, I don't know what happened to that sentence, but I remember what it was. Even the best ideas turn out to be wrong. Okay, did everybody write that down? Okay, now this article was actually edited by me once because the original one was, I'm sure he had some structure in mind, but I thought it was all mixed up. So I took everything that was together, that was supposed to be together, and put them in the same paragraph, but I left everything else pretty much exactly the same. Yes, Rosa.
Sorry, there, I couldn't hear you. You got, were you supposed to write something?
Oh, yeah. Vincent, did you hear me?
Yes.
Did you hear me? Okay. Yeah, at the end of the page, can you hear me now, Rosa?
Yes.
Okay. Add at the end of that sentence, sometimes even the best ideas turn out to be wrong. Okay. So I did edit it, but I didn't change any of his sentences. I just moved them around so that it made more sense. These are the sentences the way he wrote it. So what's your overall impression about the style, Vincent?
It's very terse. Like, he uses a lot of number one openers.
Yes, he does use a lot of number ones.
He does have a decent amount of decorations, though, I noticed.
Okay,
like similes. He has two similes, like the metaphor where he's wearing the cocky hat. and then there was one over here. It grew like bubbling laughter.
Yeah, I think that's a really good simile. I really like that. Aiden, what were you going to say?
He uses a bunch. He uses a bunch of descriptive words. He describes kudzu in a bunch of different ways, and I'm saying he compares it to other things.
Yeah, great notice. Okay, so what I really want to do, yes, Rosa.
He likes his very short sentences too.
Did you say very short sentences? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Very short. Yes, lots of them. Now, maybe it was written for like a weekly reader, you know, that little newspaper. I don't know if they still give them to kids in school, but it's like, maybe he did that because of the age group he was writing for. I don't know. But can you see how boring just number ones and very short sentences upon number ones and very short sentences are? Okay. It jumps out at you at this point, right? So that's because y'all all write very good, complex sentences, and you vary your sentence openers. But I want you to see how important that is, because sometimes people get frustrated with all the style and they're just like, wish I could just write it and be done with it. Okay. But it actually matters. And this is why professors tend to like my students' writing, because they're not being bored to death and it actually makes sense. Okay. Because you guys have well developed your skills. Okay. So what I want to do is open up this article, and I had so much trouble with my with my writing pad yesterday, but I think it might have been because I was trying to write on a document that was actually part of one of my handbooks, and maybe the thing was just too big and it was just causing a delay. I don't know, but I'm going to try this again. And we're just going to go through and we're going to go ahead and notate a paragraph at a time what you see in the papers and what is missing, what you see in the paragraphs and what is missing in the paragraphs. Okay. Hopefully this is going to work better than it did yesterday. I was really frustrated. I finally had to just give it up. But this is just a single like 2-page document that I'm going to be writing on this time. So I'm hoping that it will actually work. Oh, now, Aiden, I don't know. Where are y'all in Georgia?
About an hour west of Atlanta.
Hour west. Do you know what kudzu is?
Oh yeah, we have a lot of it up here. Even there's a we moved 4 years ago, and in the city we moved from on the side of the highway. It was just all over buildings and up telephone. It was kind of impressive, and you were kind of in awe of how just strangly the dang plan is.
Okay, I'm looking for a picture right now so I can show
We
Vincent
don't have
and
it up here.
huh?
We don't have it.
Yeah, I didn't think you probably did. Y'all are just too far north. It loves the hot, humid climate, apparently. And apparently that's the way Japan is in the summer, although Japan has a lot of snow too. So they kind of have both kinds. So let's see. Let me show you this. And y'all have an idea. This is kudzu. When we ride down I-20, go into Atlanta, you know, they do try to beat it back. But it's just like what Aiden was talking about. It drapes over everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It is, like you said, what word did you use to describe it? Impressive?
Yeah, it's quite impressive.
It is, yeah. Now, we had some friends, when they bought a house, you can actually see the leaves kind of up close there. Some friends of ours actually bought a house, and there was just, it had a deep backyard, and there was a ton of kudzu growing in it. And you can't kill the stuff really because it, like they said, the roots go down 7 feet deep. But if you keep spraying it with Roundup, you can at least keep it at bay. But at one point they got goats, and the goats ate up every single bit. You know, goats don't care about, there's hardly any terrain that they can't manage, including kudzu. So they cleaned that thing up as clean as a whistle. Now I'm sure once they got rid of the goats, it probably came back.
Those pictures you're showing me, they remind me of the like the World War II movies when they show Japan and like the forest is covered with like that.
Oh,
like,
is it really? Oh,
yeah.
cool. I guess that's because it actually came from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's sort of like, yeah, thanks for the present, I guess. But I think it's hysterically funny that the government was paying farmers, paying men to plant it. It's like, okay, well, this is really where I got my idea for the level 3 paper that we work on in stages throughout the year, which is called The Great Idea Gone Wrong. I got it from this paper. So what everybody does in level 3 is they pick a subject, and there's 3 different mini essays that we write that they end up putting together in a giant paper. And the first one is the history of the great idea. It's like a, you know, several paragraph essay. Then it's the positives of the great idea. Then it's the negatives of the great idea. And then they put it all together with a super intro and a super conclusion. And this is where I got the idea. I got it from this article. So there are lots of ideas that sound like a good idea and then they go wrong. But it's called unintended consequences. Communism is one, right? There are lots of these kinds of ideas that on paper hey, this looks great. But then when you actually implement it, then you find out the negatives. So anyway, I've gotten a lot of good out of this paper. So let's go through, and I'm going to do a screen share, and we're going to try filling this out, okay? We do high floating controls. Okay. Hopefully this is going to work today. All right. So we're just going to, we'll do one paragraph for right now and just see how far we get with this. We don't necessarily have to get through all of them. You could do that tomorrow if we don't finish, but we'll go ahead and start. Oh, where's my, there it is. Okay, I hope this is going to work. Okay, so let's look at this introduction, and we want to find out, does the first sentence have an attention grabber? Does it include background information not found in the essay body? Does it state the 3 topics? Does the last sentence state a thesis statement? And does it have 2 or 3 strong key words that you can use for the last sentence of the conclusion? Okay, so what about this first sentence? Does it have an attention grabber? It climbs, it claims, it has hairy green arms. What do you think? Think so? Okay, let's see. Okay, so I'm going to put a check mark there. Hey, it's working. I guess that must have been the problem yesterday. I just had too big of a document. It was just slowing everything down. Okay. Does the paragraph include background information not found in the essay body? Just read through the first few sentences and see what you think. Okay, what do you think, Vincent?
I think it does. Like it says, it grows 40 to 60 feet.
Okay.
It talks about the elbow joints.
Okay.
And pulling down telephone poles.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I agree with you. I think it does have background information. I'm going to check that off. Okay. Now, does it state 3 topics? Obviously, we've got 3 body paragraphs, so I'm assuming there should be 3 topics here. Maybe we should just actually look and see what the topics are of these paragraphs. And then we'll look and see if we find them in the introduction. Okay, so here's the topic sentence for the first one. For a brief time, it appeared as if kudzu were a miracle plant that could bind the wounds of the weary soil and save the South. What could we call that particular topic? It gives a lot of history, right? Okay, Rosa.
I was going to say, like, the good side of it, like what they thought it was going to do at first.
Well, and I think that's actually the next one, which is specifically about the good side. But really in this one, they tell how it actually came to the United States. And maybe it should have a better topic sentence, because if you look at all the information in that paragraph, you can see that it really gives a lot of history of how we actually ended up with it here. And how the government actually put it in the South and started paying people to plant it. So I think that's history, but they don't use that word, which I think is a mistake. Okay, Aiden, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say kind of how Americans and people found out about it. So maybe it's Voyage to America or First Impressions. Okay.
All right, so let's just make it simple, and I'm going to actually write this here. Wait a minute. I'm just having trouble managing my pen here. Okay, so I'm just going to list this so when we go back and look at the intro, we can find out. So this probably needs a new topic sentence, you guys, because it's really not clear. Okay, so I'm going to put down here on the body, I'm going to put paragraph number 1 needs to be history. Okay, let's look at paragraph 2 and see if this is a good topic sentence for the information. All right, kudzu show that even a weed has a good side. So what does it sound like the topic is supposed to be?
Good side.
Yes.
Good side.
Yes, absolutely. So history, and then this would be, I guess we can call positives. And let's see what the next one is. But kudzu had a wild side. It did not want to be a king. It wanted to be what it was, a free wandering weed. Now, we've already read this, and we know that this is all about the negatives, right? I really like these sentences, though. It doesn't use any word that's similar too bad or negative or whatever, but maybe you could make it more clear by had a wild and
Wicked.
wicked. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That would be great. That would cover the negatives, wouldn't it? History. I think, yeah, this needs to be written. Maybe if you just added that one word to paragraph 3, wicked or dangerous or harmful or something like that. Okay. That's supposed to be paragraph 3. All right. So let's go back and look at the intro and see if we find those topics in the intro. Okay. Let's see. The vine thrives in the South, and at first Southerners welcomed it as a friend. Do you think that's enough to stand for a mention of the first topic, which is history?
No.
Not very clear.
Okay, so maybe it needs to, and we've got all this space over here we can actually write, clarify topic 1 in the intro, of course. What about number 2? The next one is, even though kudzu has some good points, will that stand for the second topic? Okay, except don't forget, good is a banned word. Okay, don't worry about that right now, though. Now almost everyone in the South knows that a kudzu is an aggressive invasive weed. Is that okay for the third topic, do you think? I mean, that's the worst part about kudzu, right? It's aggressive and it's invasive. So I personally would let that go.
Probably.
I would just clarify the topic 1 a little bit. Okay. All right. So now let's see. Is the last sentence the thesis statement? Kudzu is an example of a decision that looked right but went wrong. I think that's the point they're making throughout the whole essay, really. And then they do repeat it in the conclusion. Okay. So I'm going to give this a yes. And does the last sentence have 2 or 3 strong keywords that we could use for the conclusion? I think so. Looked right, went wrong. Almost every, in the sentence that got chopped off at the end is, bully kudzu's hanging around to remind them that sometimes even the best ideas turn out to be wrong. So you can see that there's a connection there. Okay, so I'm going to give this a yes. So they did pretty well. Okay. Now the body paragraph has a topic clincher. Now what I'm going to ask you all to do, and I actually do ask you to do on the assignment sheet, is these. I know we've been writing 5-paragraph essays all year, and that's not because there's only one kind of essay that can be written, which is 5 paragraphs. Okay. That's just a convenient way to practice the essay structure. But in the real world, they're all different lengths of essays. If you look on page 269, the page we're going to be working on, you're going to see that on day 3, that I want you to break body paragraph 1 into 2 paragraphs at a point where a division of the topic will be appropriate. Okay? And that's going to be up to you to decide where that will be. So where it says that I have, where it says that there are 3 paragraphs on this form, I mean 6 body paragraphs, that's because you're going to be breaking up the body paragraphs when you edit it, okay? And y'all don't even have to type this up. I've already got a form, I've already got a Word document posted that all you're going to do is just save it with your own information, and you are just going to work right on that document. Isn't that awesome? So this is not going to be nearly as much work as you've had to do in the past. Okay, so you're going to be breaking up body paragraph 1 into 2, body paragraph 2 into 2, and body paragraph 3 into 2. You do not have to go back. Once you wait until you're finished with all your style, and you don't have to go back and put in all the style in each of the 6 paragraphs. Wherever you break it, I will be counting those 2 paragraphs together when I'm looking at the style. Does that make sense? I hope everybody's really paying attention, because I'm saving you a lot of work here. And that's the way we do it in level 3. I encourage them to write as many paragraphs as is needed, but they only actually have to do all of the style or to break up paragraphs when they're really long, but they only have to do all the style in 5 paragraphs. Otherwise, nobody wants to write a longer paper. Okay. So we just need to make sure when you go back and you break up the paragraphs, you may have to write a clincher sentence on the end of the one that you broke, the first part of that you broke up, and then you might need to write a new topic clincher for the new one that you created. Does that make sense? Do y'all understand what I mean? Okay, so just make sure that there are topic clinchers after you break them apart. Okay, now let's go back and look at the article. So we're not going to worry about that right now, but I think we do need to make a better topic sentence for the body paragraph on page 233. For a brief time it appeared. You might want to even just take your pen and just write history on the actual article in your book as the topic, and make sure that that word or something like it appears in your topic sentence. Okay. You could keep those sentences if you could just put a topic sentence in front of it that has the word history. Okay. Because or you could move that to the good paragraph if you wanted to. You can move that sentence, which is really a great sentence. And that's another metaphor there, Vincent. Right? Okay. Now, the conclusion, does it restate the thesis statement first and then the 3 topics from the introduction? So let's look at the conclusion. It actually doesn't. Southerners have to use chemical sprays to keep greedy kudzu from draping itself over everything. So I really like that sentence at the end. Almost everywhere they go, bully kudzu is hanging around to remind them that sometimes even the best ideas turn out to be wrong. You can leave that there, but you might want to put another sentence here at the beginning that says something like, what could we say to sort of bring the idea back in about that it turned out to be a stunningly bad idea? What's a sentence we could possibly put there in front of Southerners have to use chemical sprays? Any thoughts? We need to just at least allude to the thesis statement. Okay, it doesn't have to be the same thing that's that's at the very end, because we don't have to say all of that stuff. Aiden.
You could probably say instead, since kudzu took a dark turn, Southerners have to use da 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 da.
Okay, that's a great idea. All right, anybody else got some suggestions? I might just say, the vicious plant that was embraced with such hope turned out to be incredibly disappointing, or something like that. Okay? It doesn't matter how you say it, just give a little bit of a allusion to your thesis statement, okay? Anybody have any questions about that? No? Okay.
No.
Does it state what is most significant or important about a subject? It really does. They don't actually use that word, but I think that very last sentence is really what's most important, right? Sometimes even the best ideas turn out to be wrong. So I would give them credit for that. I actually would, personally. But you could say, you could put the word importantly or significantly in there, but I think that's really strong the way that's stated. What do you all think about that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Let's see. Now, final sentence repeats or reflects 2 or 3 strong keywords from the last sentence of the intro. Yeah, I think it does that. Now that we've added it back in, the part that got lopped off. Okay. Doesn't have to be exactly the same wording, but it needs to reflect it at least. Okay. So let's look at, in general, title from 2 to 3 strong keywords from the last sentence of the conclusion. Bully kudzu, and they called the thing Green Menace, which I think is a super duper title. I love that. So I would say yes for that. Let's see. Banned and weak verbs and adjectives. Make a tally mark for each banned word found in paragraph. So I'm going to do paragraph 1. That's going to be 1 and 2. I'm going to do paragraph 2. That's going to be 3 and 4. And I'm going to do paragraph 3. That's going to be 5 and 6. But let's don't worry about that right now. Let's just look at the intro. Okay, y'all just pick up a pen and just read through the intro silently and just mark out anything that you notice that is banned. Okay, what do y'all think? What did you find? Vincent.
There are a few contractions, like
Okay.
it's and that's, and there was, it said big.
Okay. And did anybody get anything else? Rosa?
We were doing the introduction, right?
Right.
Yeah, I have good, knows, like, looked, went.
Oh, this is all in the, oh, yeah. Oh, I mislooked. What about knows? Is that banned?
Oh no, because it would be think or thought. The think knows not fun.
Okay, so it's okay if y'all think it's just weak. It doesn't even have to be on the banned words list. So Rosa's putting knows on there. Everyone knows everyone in the South knows that a kudzu is a aggressive. Yeah, it could be stronger. That's good if you want to put that. Okay. So contractions, bad, good. I mean, big, good. I mean, it's not that terrible, the number of them that they have. The other ones actually, I think, have more. Okay. So I'm going to let you look through the other ones later because I want to just look through one, at least the intro, because I got to let y'all go in a minute and just notate the style here. Okay. You know what I should have done? We should just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would be less confusing, wouldn't it? Like this is body paragraph 1. This is body paragraph 2, and this is body paragraph 3, and then just make marks here. Okay. Do they have an ly word in the intro? Ly adverb.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see one. Do y'all?
No.
No.
Okay.
I don't see one either.
Okay, so in the intro, no. What about a who, which? It can even be an invisible who, which, if there is such a thing in here.
There's a I see isn't the fourth sentence an invisible which?
1, 2, 3. Which one are you talking about?
It's we're still doing the introduction, right?
Yeah.
It's the kudzu, which is a plant that is the fastest growing vine of all.
Oh yeah, you're right. Excellent. Do y'all see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is actually an invisible. Yeah. Good catch there, Vincent. I missed that. Okay. A strong verb. And at least one paragraph should have dual strong verbs. I think he uses some good strong verbs. So just give me an example of one.
It clings.
Yeah. It clings. I would count that actually as a dual, really. Even though they're two different sentences, they're right there together. Quality adjective, I think he does pretty well with those. You just have to pick one. He has lots actually. Hairy, aggressive, invasive. So yeah, I would just say yes. And does he have a www.asia clause? I can see one that just jumps right out at me. It can wrap around trees, cars, houses, even people if they would stand still for it, right? So yeah, I would mark that. And we're not going to take the time to look for a teeter-totter, but if you can find one in the whole essay, that would be great. And then, of course, you'd want to go back and look for sentence types, which is pretty easy for this guy because does he have any number ones in the intro?
A few.
Does he have any very short sentences in the intro? Does he have anything else?
There's a even though, I guess, is kind of an adverbial opener.
Even though, yes, it is. It's just another version of although. Yeah, so he does actually have one of those. But I know there's no ing eds. I know there's no lys. And I know there's no prepositional. No, wait a minute. There might be. No. If there is, I'm not catching it. Anybody else see one?
No.
Okay. So this is what you need to do. You need to go through and check each paragraph before you start rewriting it, okay? And the description, and let's see, just go through and just kind of scribble underneath words to see if they have any descriptive words. Green, hairy, elbow-like, blanket is really a noun, but it's still descriptive, right? A blanket of green. I think he does really well with his descriptives, like somebody else pointed out. Okay, and then you can check for decorations. We've already found at least one metaphor in here. We found one simile as big as a human hand, a blanket of green, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so do y'all see how I want you to go about doing this? And then you are just going to rewrite it. If you get confused what I mean about breaking up the paragraph, like I think the first body paragraph could easily be broken. Aiden, I know you need to go. Just let me say this and then I'll let you go. The first body paragraph could easily be broken with but cute kudzu did not stop with porches. I think that would make a good start for the next paragraph, for breaking body paragraph 1 into 2. What do y'all think?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then those paragraphs are just going to be a more manageable size. And the third one, actually, even though it's kind of short, it can still be broken into 2. Where it says farmers begin to dislike kudzu and quit planting it. That's where I'd break that one. And then the other one about legumes, I would break about the good side. I would break at one more way that the vine helps the earth. I think I would break that paragraph right there.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Okay. Any questions about that? Now, Aiden, I know you need to go. Do you have a question for me before you go?
No, I think I'm all good.
Okay. Remember that you don't have to type this up. I've already conveniently provided you with a Word document on ThinkWave. Okay.
Yeah.
All you have to do is fix it and put your own information up at the top. Yes, Rosa.
So are we breaking all the body paragraphs into 2?
Yes. I'd break the first one up at where it says, but cute kudzu did not stop. I'd break the second one with there's one more way the vine helps the earth. And I'd break the third one up with farmers began to dislike kudzu and quit planting it. And you remember, guys, do all of your style and changes and then break it up. I'm not asking you to do style for 6 body paragraphs. Whatever you have between those 2 where you break them up will be fine. Okay. You don't have to go back and add more.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Aiden, you better run so you can get your lunch.
I have one more question.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you guys.
Okay. All right, Rosa.
So are we supposed to mark all this stuff for the final?
Yeah, you're going to mark it because I'll be going through and grading it just like always. So actually, once you've got all your style in, put your marks in just like you always do.
And are we supposed to upload this thing to
I don't know if I say anything about that in there. So you have your survey paper that you're doing, but this is what I'll actually be using to grade it with. Okay, just like a regular old composition checklist. Okay. Let's see. Let's see.
So you don't need this then?
It doesn't say that you have to. No, it says all the paragraphs should be in one Word document with MLA heading and formatting. There are no keyword outlines or rough drafts for this assignment. So no, you don't have to turn in that chart.
Okay.
Just use it for your own benefit, okay? Okay. Any other questions before we go?
Yeah. For our previous assignment, the ACT essay, we were supposed to do we were supposed to put our outlines in with our finals, right?
Yeah, although, you know, when you actually do the ACT, you don't have, I mean, there's no requirement for an outline. And I did talk to a girl who's taken it recently, and in the class after y'all's, the local class that I do, and she said they don't give you any paper for doing an outline, but you can actually write it in the test booklet, like below the prompt that they give you. There's actually like maybe this much space that you could actually write an outline in. So they don't require the outline. I would like to see the outline, because what I've noticed a lot of times when people turn this assignment in is that their outlines are way, way, way too complicated. And they've spent a lot of time, just like you said. You know, I know y'all have been trained to do it that way, but now I'm trying to get you to not do it that way. Because if you do, you just, like you found out, you just don't finish, you know. So, and it's good to know that. It's good to know that. That way, when you're in a test in school, you'll know that that's not the thing to spend your time on. You know, the only reason I say to do an outline at all and write it down is because I've personally found out that under time pressure, you can forget what you were planning to do. And so the least little bit of information on that, the better. Okay. So yeah, if you turned it in, that's great. I'd like to see it, but I don't think I even said anything about that on the checklist, did I? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, then I'm going to let you guys go.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me know if anything is confusing and you need help. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.